How about some Week 12 early games recap here on the Audible? Cecil, Lammey, Suigmund, Bloom with some interesting games and playoff positioning occurring in real time. Let's get into it.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It was the game that everybody was watching and waiting for to see the result, and it had to go to overtime to get a win for Kansas City, who actually won a one-score game, 23-20, the final score over the Colts. This one big. Colts now 8-3. The Chiefs are 6-5, and we'll see if they can keep their playoff hopes alive as they continue down the stretch. But let's start on the Colts side. Daniel Jones, couple of touchdowns, 181 yards. Jonathan Taylor, 16 for 58, 3.6 a carry. And then Ashton Dulin, 1 for 48. What do we got here? 5 for 45 for Tyler Warren, 5 for 27 and a touchdown for Michael Pittman. The other touchdown was Drew Ogletree with nobody started. Maybe Alec Pierce you had in as a what the heck flex, 1 for 26.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. So this one, it comes down, the Colts offense, what was the number, like 10 first downs or whatever at one point as the Chiefs were driving and they had 25 first downs, whatever that number was. You saw a disparity there. Colts offense went cold, and well, the Chiefs get a much needed win.
Yeah, what a game. And as we are seeing it in our fantasy leagues, the NFL making that turn to the stretch run, and you can feel the stakes are getting higher when you're watching these games. And what a game this was. And see, this was a game that really reminds you that, especially at this time of year, the outcome is really hanging in the balance, and you can feel who's going to seize it or who's going to fumble it, who's going to rise to the occasion, who's going to shrink from the occasion. And this was a game that early on felt like it was going to be a real affirmation of Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen going on the road in Kansas City. And we'll talk about Indianapolis's defense too. But early on, they had some offensive penalties, but they got a big play on defense and turned it into a touchdown to get control of the game. And then they had a drive where Drew Ogletree caught a touchdown. Ashton Dulin made the big catch and run. Love seeing that as a small school player who's made his way coming off of a knee injury. And you're seeing this offense doing things without Jonathan Taylor breaking long runs, without Daniel Jones and the passing game making big plays. And they were in control of the game. And Cecil, it felt like the classic, like playing to not lose at that point. All the things they were doing.
Oh, yes. 1,000%.
And then, this is one of those things where, like, Daniel Jones in his career, even though he's been to the playoffs and won a playoff game, this is bigger than a playoff game. A chance to really put the Chiefs dynasty in a tailspin. This isn't just the Chiefs season. This is a sense of, is this now when the Chiefs become a mortal team again? And Daniel Jones, now there's some talk maybe he's banged up. He did get on the injury report during the week. But as you saw this game go on, you just felt the Colts shrinking, like, please make the clock turn, please, like a team, a Cinderella in the NCAA tournament. And they couldn't make the clock run fast enough. Daniel Jones almost had an interception with the game hanging in the balance late that could have turned the game against the Colts anyway. And then in overtime, they go ahead and give it to Jonathan Taylor, and he's on third down. He's not able to do it. So Kansas City, Steve Spagnuolo's defense really put a cap on this offense. Although you wonder if mentally, emotionally, this team, and again, the question is, can Daniel Jones seize it when he needs to? And it looked like it was going to be that game, and it wasn't. Now for fantasy, we're going to look ahead and see, we alluded to this last week. They've got Houston, Jacksonville, Seattle, San Francisco. Okay, San Francisco's defense you can handle. Jacksonville and Houston. So you got to generate some offense. And these are all presumptive playoff teams or teams that are in the playoff picture. And for fantasy, you're looking at Jonathan Taylor, MVP. I don't know now. Daniel Jones, quarterback one. I'm not sure. Michael Pittman will probably be okay, but Tyler Warren is a ceiling play. Alec Pierce, like you said, Cease. So this definitely puts some question marks on what we have with the Colts offense going forward. And when we look at the Chiefs offense, maybe the fantasy numbers might seem underwhelming across the board of the offense, but this was a punch your way out of the corner kind of game when the football gods really tested the Chiefs, and they passed the test.
They passed the test with a lot of. You might want to defend Roshy Rice. And for the love of God, like they needed a big one. There was one play where it was Juju on an underneath route. Okay, they did a good job of setting things up. Mahomes under pressure. You saw him scrambling, taking hits. You know, Mahomes does his best to slide, sometimes slide too late, sometimes fake slide when he's going out of bounds. Like he's pretty, I don't know, I want to say deceptive with that, but you know, he tries to take care of his body. He was not doing that against the Colts. He was taking big hits after big hits after big hits, staying in the pocket, delivering throws, mainly to Roshy Rice to seal this game. But this team needs Isaiah Pacheco. I know they won today.
Yeah.
It's not because I can't stand the Chiefs. It's just because, like, I look at this team and their thin playoff chances still, even with this win, thin playoff chances. You got to have some semblance of running the ball. Kareem Hunt out there fumbling. Brashard Smith not ready as a runner, whatever gadget player there, but no Isaiah Pacheco, no ground game. I guess no problem today, but in a playoff game, that'd be a problem.
And they got to turn around and play Dallas on Thanksgiving. So you can't settle for field goals. And let's mention Lou Anarumo, because we know in this Arrowhead Stadium, probably the most famous playoff loss for the Chiefs was Lou Anarumo frustrating Patrick Mahomes. And you saw in this game early on 2 8-minute long drives that resulted in field goals. And again, that was after Laitu Latu, looks like he's going to be a good one, jumps up, deflects the ball, catches it, gets it down to the 1 yard line. So it was a rough, and also, Cease, this was a game where you've watched the Kansas City dynasty. In Arrowhead, they always get the calls. They weren't getting the calls in this one. They were not getting the calls.
They were looking for them.
They were looking for them, but they were having to overcome also. And then, there was a play that Kelsey should have had a touchdown. It was a questionable face mask. Like his hand was on the helmet, didn't really grab the face mask or the ear hole. And there was another one where usually they get a free play on an offsides, but they blew it dead. Mahomes was frustrated. They settled for a field goal. They need some roughing the passer calls sometimes to keep these drives going. And they come out of the locker room in the second half, punt. Mahomes, you can tell he's pressing. The crowd's pressing. This game's 20-9 going in well into the second half. And then you see a Roshy Rice long play right before the fourth quarter. Here we go. And Kareem Hunt fumbles in the red zone. A terrific play in the Colts defense. They rose to the occasion in this game. This is not a loss on the Colts defense. You see Noah Gray drops a pass that could be a long play, maybe a touchdown. Brashard Smith breaks a long play, but no, there's a penalty. So the offense still keeps fighting. Mahomes and really Kareem Hunt, even though he had the fumble, a lot of spirit. Even though, again, you saw the Colts getting a sack. They're playing out of their own end zone now, and Roshy Rice makes a giant play. Roshy Rice then makes a fourth down conversion. Now, all of a sudden, a game that Indianapolis is controlling with 2 minutes left, they're having to use their timeouts. Even though they're ahead on the scoreboard, the game is slipping away. The Chiefs have first and goal to 1. And again, in Lou Anarumo fashion, because remember, this happened in the Bengals-Chiefs AFC title game. The Colts make a big goal line stand to send the game to overtime. However, they couldn't do anything again. And then Hunt and Roshy Rice making plays in overtime, and the Chiefs grind out this win. And Cease, I think if this underscores anything, like you said, they're not in the playoffs yet. I mean, they have a ways to go. This is a dangerous team. How can a team with a dynasty coming into the season now be turned into like that cornered animal? But you see it. You see them rallying in this game. It was a big game for this team to decide, like, are we just going to gracefully bow out of the dynasty and say it's too hard, or are we going to fight and have the spirit really of a team like the Lions were a few years ago that are just trying to get respectable? So they look like a dangerous team. The Ravens we'll talk about, maybe not so much, but I know this Chiefs Cowboys on Thanksgiving will be very entertaining.
It will be entertaining, just like Bears Steelers was. Oh boy, 31-28, the final score. Bears are 8-3. The Bears are 8-3. Pittsburgh Steelers 6-5. Uh-oh. Mason Rudolph out there, 171, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. The touchdown goes to, Pat Freiermuth. Okay, maybe have had him in. Calvin Austin, 4 for 36. Kenneth Gainwell, 6 for 30 as receiver, 10 for 92 as a rusher. It was Jalen Warren with the rushing touchdown and 68 yards. DK Metcalf with a rushing touchdown and 12 yards. Metcalf also had 5 for 22. Darnell Washington, 2 for 22. But with a Mason Rudolph-led offense, this is what you get. When you got to score more points against Chicago, they fall short.
This game was quite a wild and woolly ride. So, Bears, Steelers, Soldier Field. This is going to be a classic. No defense. Turnovers, points. And it looked like the Steelers might be able to take control of this game in the first half, but the defense for the Bears settles down. Caleb starts to make some plays. They take control in the second half. But, Mason Rudolph was better than his numbers indicate. It was a gutsy performance by the Bears defense. They already had all their starting linebackers out coming into this game. I think they had 2 more linebacker injuries during the game. So, of course, the Steelers running backs were the big plays. Kenneth Gainwell had a nice game, and Jalen Warren got the touchdown, although didn't really break free as a runner, as you might expect. And the Steelers, with Mason Rudolph, he's competent at this point of his career running the offense. There was a play where early on, though, that Nashawn Wright, who, by the way, made that interception. Remember Coach Bean getting murdered in Oakland. He makes another amazing play. By the way, the gutsy performance. He makes a big tackle on DK Metcalf with the game on the line late. Also, we got to mention Montez Sweat. Remember that trade as a beginning of turning around this team? A strip sack. And the Steelers, Arthur Smith gets a little cute. Connor Hayward on a tush push. No, it got stopped on 4th down, but then they try to run it again. No, it's Kenneth Gainwell on a fake, almost scoring a touchdown, 55 yards down to the 1. Warren gets the touchdown there. There was some plays that Mason Rudolph did make in the 4th quarter, like a big scramble that got nullified by penalty. And then his last gasp near midfield, Jaquan Brisker makes a leaping play. So not really much in this game for the passing game, because it was a lot of running backs attacking that second level of the defense. DK Metcalf also got banged up in this one with an ankle in and out of the game. Probably okay, but we'll see. As a Steelers fan, though, it comes across that the Ravens have caught the Steelers in the standings now, and the Steelers have to play. They got to play Buffalo next week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. It is the Audible, and it is the Caleb Williams experience, as our Carson Brock says in our chat room. It is the Caleb Williams experience. So let's go through it. 3 touchdowns in this one, 239 yards. DJ Moore, 5 for 64, 2 of them things. Colston Loveland, 4 for 49 and a touch. Rome Odunze, 3 for 53. Luther Burden, 3 for 46. DeAndre Swift, he's fully practicing, 8 for 15. And then also 1 for 14. Kyle Monagai gets 12 for 48 and a rushing touchdown there. Also 21 yards rushing for Caleb Williams, which will benefit his fantasy day. But yeah, spreading it around, showing some love to some different receivers. And DJ Moore, welcome back.
Cease, this was a game where you saw the whole range for the Steelers defense and for Caleb Williams. And it's quite a range for both of these, for this unit, for this player. You saw Caleb moving the ball easily with the run and the pass. Early on, when this game was seemingly swinging back and forth on these turnovers and points off turnovers, Ben Johnson in the first half trusts Caleb Williams on a 4th down and short in his own territory, and he gets it with a scramble right after he had gotten sacked in the end zone by TJ Watt, with JJ Watt calling the game. And I think he passed his brother on the all-time sack list with that sack. And Nick Herbig gets the, it's one of those places where it's like, Caleb, you're in your own end zone, man. Look down. You got to think differently. But he didn't. And then he trusted him, and he got the first down on a scramble, and he started to settle down. There was also a DeAndre Swift fumble in this one. There were some plays in the second half. There was a drive where they punted because Caleb took a delay of game. He had a chance to clinch the game. Ben Johnson did call a pass on 3rd and 7 instead of just getting the Steelers to use a timeout, and pressure came. So it wasn't really on Caleb. It was the Steelers when they get pressure, right? But for fantasy, you see when the Steelers don't get home, yards are going to happen. Points are going to happen. And it was Caleb Williams getting a lot of those, spreading it out. And this is going to be the problem. Now, this week, it was DJ Moore with the 2 touchdowns. We know there's enough talent there. We know now there's enough talent there with Luther Burden, who's actually more productive because of his 1 carry for 15 yards than Rome Odunze, who now you're starting to wonder, how many times is Rome Odunze going to give you 5 points or 7 points before you say, am I going to continue to play him? Colston Loveland gets the touchdown here. So he's creeping back in. Now, you're not playing the Steelers every week, but you see Kyle Monangai gets the touchdown, more effective running inside against a tough Steelers run defense, at least today. And is he passing DeAndre Swift? Now that's up in the air. Chicago, like you said, 8-3. We're going to see where this team really stands when they go to Philadelphia next week.
Another big one as we watch that AFC bracket with the New England Patriots winning 26-20 over the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are 3-8. Patriots, first team to double-digit wins, 10-2. So Drake Maye, 294, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. The touchdown to Hunter Henry, 7 for 115 and a touch. Austin Hooper, 3 for 39. Pop Douglas, 1 for 37. Mac Hollins, 2 for 30. Stephon Diggs, 2 for 20. Snapping a streak of touchdowns, it seems to have been over the last month in every single game. So he's like cold, then he got hot, cold again today. Travion Henderson, 18 for 66. Ramondre Stevenson was back. 6 carries, 5 yards.
Yeah.
So there you go. And again, Henderson with 3 for 15 as a receiver. Stevenson with 1 for 5. Fantasy GM's wondering, is Diggs going to keep popping? What about that Henderson-Stevenson split? Patriots fans just worried about, let's go get that number 1 seed in the AFC with the 3rd easiest schedule in the league, including this game against the hapless Bengals without Joe Burrow.
It wasn't pretty, but you don't get artistic impression points for wins. And I think you can look at this as a glass half full. Hey, you get a road win in the NFL, and the Joe Flacco Bengals have not been an easy out. Then that's a good thing. And like you said, Cecil, where they are at in standings. On the other hand, you see a team starting to spring some leaks, and you see a team that needs to get to that bye week and rest and heal up, as you saw 2 offensive linemen go down in the game, including Will Campbell. Watch that one. Morgan Moses was in and out because of an illness. But it is the Bengals, so the one thing you didn't know that was going to work was passing to the tight end. So it was Hunter Henry with the really big game. Austin Hooper had a few plays. Otherwise, Drake Maye, the Bengals defense actually showed up. They forced some punts. Geno Stone had a pick 6 on a play where Drake Maye just had a poor throw over the middle of the field. There was I think with the penalties, 8 or 9 play goal line stand for the Bengals that they stopped them on 4th down. They kept keeping the Patriots in goal to go downs because of penalties, including there was a Patriots penalty too. So the Bengals making it difficult. Maye was making some throws, trying to clinch the game, trying to put it away, but they were settling for field goals and the Bengals hung around. But like you said, fantasy, Henderson is the lead back over Stevenson. Henderson ran tough at the goal line. Every one of the backs, even Terrell Jennings got a shot in that 8 or 9 play stand, including Stevenson. Nobody could do that, but it's Henderson's in, and Stevenson is just an injury upside backup at this point. And then with Kayshon Boutte back, he drew a pass interference penalty. Like you said, you're wondering what you have with Stephon Diggs, but when you have Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte and Kyle Williams made a play and Mac Hollins made a couple of plays, including on a field goal drive, you still have the players to have a varied passing attack. And even though it was a disappointing fantasy game, especially for Drake Maye, when you look at this matchup going in, Patriots don't care. Mike Vrabel doesn't care. He knows how to guide this team at this point in the season. They just got to face a really fun Giants team and then catch their breath during the bye.
Yeah, and they'll be there at the end. We'll see how it comes down in the AFC and then see what the Patriots do against better competition. Bengals side, as I mentioned, with no Joe Burrow, practicing fully, the last 2 weeks, right? Top of my head.
Yeah.
Burrow's been out there. Week 13's always been the target, so week 12 felt a little bit soon, even with those full practices. 183, 1 touchdown, 1 INT for Flacco. Chase Brown, 19 for 107. Okay, let's do that some more. Andre Yosevich, no Jamar Chase, so 4 for 61 there. Mike Gesicki back 4 for 35. T. Higgins 5 for 31. It's Mitchell Tinsley with the touchdown. Nobody started him. Chase Brown also had a couple of catches for 23 yards. Hey, there's Noah Fant for 1 for 9. That's not great, Bob. But the Bengals show a little bit of fight in this one, falling short and now waiting for the return of Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and it's time. Joe Flacco had his 16th career pick 6. Marcus Jones, it was too easy. It was one of those ones when you see the ball going out of the quarterback's hand, you're like, oh, this is going to be a pick 6. So it's hard to overcome that when you're Cincinnati. It's hard to overcome no Jamar Chase. It's hard to overcome T. Higgins going out on a concussion on a play where he was interfered with. You did see Mitchell Tinsley get a touchdown, had a big play to keep them alive. Andre Yoshevich was in and out of the game. If you were counting on Noah Fant, like you said, Mike Gesicki actually first game back a little more favored from Flacco. The one constant in the offense was Chase Brown, the 100-yard game, far and away the best game any running back has had against the Patriots run defense. So you're feeling better about Chase Brown, at least until Samaje Perine comes back. He's getting those short receptions. And that's it. You're playing spoiler. Now, Joe Burrow doesn't care. Joe Burrow doesn't care what the record is. I really hope, Cease, that we don't see Joe Burrow come back and get hurt, because as a football fan, football Sundays are better with Joe Burrow. The action's going to be better. But the season is over for the Bengals, which is sad because we're now getting denied opportunities to see what Burrow can do in his prime against a lot of other great quarterbacks in their prime. But we will see him play a great quarterback on Thanksgiving night, Lamar Jackson, who's not playing so great right now.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a little bit. It is the Audible here. We're going through the Week 12 early games, and then we'll be back on Tuesday. Our Wednesday show, we'll preview the Thanksgiving Day games, and then Friday, we might as well just do Friday live, right? Friday, we'll do preview of everything else as everyone celebrates their holiday season. Hope y'all out there have a great time. Giants and Detroit, anytime you have Jameis Winston. As you said on Twitter, Bloom, watching football is just better with Jameis Winston. Falling short, though, with the Giants, 34-27. In overtime, though, Giants fall to 2-10. Lions are 7-4. Jameis, 366, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Also caught a touchdown as well from Gunnar Olszewski. Tyrone Tracy, 20 carries, 62 yards. Devin Singletary, 14, 47. So 39 rushing attempts as a team, 37 passing attempts as a team. Almost got it done, but almost doesn't count in the record book. Wande Robinson, 9 for 156 and a touch. Isaiah Hodgins got a touchdown there as well. I mentioned the Jameis touchdown there. Theo Johnson, 3 for 77. Love seeing that young man flourish. And Tyrone Tracy, 3 for 68 as a receiver, benefiting his fantasy day with over 120 all-purpose yards, 130 to be precise. Yay, math, Bloom. And yay, Jameis Winston.
Yeah, that's the bottom line of this game is, wow, as football fans, just strictly as football fans, we should be happy anytime Jameis Winston plays. He's one of those people we know from his epic speeches before the game, right? Like, he just is one with football. And you really saw it come out in this game. You're about to enter the Jameis zone. But for fantasy football can be really senseless and unjust. But the fact that people that played Jameis Winston today probably won their matchup because of Jameis Winston, that's just. That's fun. That's making fantasy football fun. And you start out with a throwback to Wandale Robinson, like a pass where, you pitch it out. I think it was Singletary throwing it back to Jameis Winston. Winston going downfield to Wandale Robinson. Wandale Robinson had 4 for 106 and a touchdown. Plus he drew an unnecessary roughness flag in just the first quarter alone in this game. You saw Hodgins make a professional play on a 3rd and goal when Detroit was trying to get a stop for a touchdown. And then the play with that Olszewski threw to Winston. I mean, this was not just a mere trick play that worked. And again, in the spirit of Dan Campbell, right? This was not a mere trick play that worked. Gunnar Olszewski actually stepped up in the pocket, kind of like a quarterback when he was under pressure. And Jameis Winston makes someone miss, breaks a tackle. At the end of this was a real football play by these guys. But then you saw Thomas Harper pick Winston. You're thinking, okay, here we go. Jameis Winston's going to, he's going to blow this. But then Winston's throwing moon balls that are getting caught by Hodgins. He's supposed to get sacked, and he finds Theo Johnson. He's just not going to go away. And know that he averaged over 20 yards of completion in this game. How often does that happen in the NFL? However, Aiden Hutchinson makes the sack in overtime to seal this win. But the Lions were sweating. And again, this offense, when Tracy had a big game, Lions forgot about him on a 42-yard catch and run. The run defense was pretty good, but he still had a good fantasy game. And the Giants are going to New England, cruising towards a top 5 pick. But this doesn't feel like a team that's adrift in the open ocean, Cease. And right. Jameis, this is a team that's on track. And Joe Shane, maybe, I don't know what he has to do with any of this, but he's probably going to get to pick the head coach that slots into this. And I think that there's a lot of potential here the way this team is playing. They're just competitive, and competitive doesn't get it done in the NFL.
Watch for Vance Joseph to be named the Giants head coach. The Lions
Ooh.
side of the ledger. Let's talk about Jared Goff going 279, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. The Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 for 149 and a touchdown. Amen to that, brother. I'll randomly go Hulk Hogan at times with the vitamins saying your prayers, brother. Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 for 45 and 1 receiving touchdown. Also 15 for 219 and 2 touchdowns. Oh, my God. That's what you get there. Not much else from anybody else, including Jameson Williams. We're wondering, like, oh, maybe there's something Laporta down and it's Williams coming through. Yeah, it's fantasy football. It's different every week. Although Jahmyr Gibbs and the Sun God are awesome every single week.
So, Cecil, I have to do this because Noah, he was overhearing us do a show. Okay. And I mean, I feel like we're going to issue a correction because Ra is the sun god, but he made sure to tell me Ammon-Ra is actually a fusing of Ammon and Ra, and it's the supreme god, the god of the sun and the air and fertility, and the supreme god. So I think on behalf of our community, Cease, we have to get this out to the fantasy football community, to the football community at large. We should no longer call him sun god. We should have been calling him supreme god. And for fantasy, he was a supreme god today. And he did have one that he juggled in the red zone into, an interception, but he came through. But really, we should give the name Supreme God to Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, that's it. This was the Supreme God kind of game where we said this about Patrick Mahomes, because both these teams are in similar situations, Super Bowl aspirations on the outside looking in week 12 of the playoff picture. We said Patrick Mahomes would not let the Chiefs lose. Well, Jahmyr Gibbs would not let the Lions lose this game and not let fantasy teams lose. So early on, the Giants getting pressure on Goff, forcing punts, but just heroic play after heroic play from Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then Jake Bates, hometown, or at least I think in the Arena League or something like that, a 59-yard kick to send the game to overtime. And then Gibbs just breaks a 69-yard touchdown run, opening overtime. Of course, with the new rules, it was not a walk-off touchdown. And like you said, the fantasy angle, if you did play Jared Goff and you got a decent game out of him, thank Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston forces quarterbacks. We saw it with Jordan Love last week. We'll talk about what Jordan Love didn't do for fantasy in this one. And of course, Jameson Williams had one catch for 36 yards that was called back, but otherwise, yeah, like you said, Cease, we're going to have this variance. David Montgomery, maybe it's not going to be variance. Maybe this is Jahmyr Gibbs backfield. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the best fantasy running back from here on out. We get to watch him again on Thanksgiving against the Packers.
It is 20 years of the Audible. We certainly appreciate everyone for participating for years and years and years with this show. Sigma Bloom, Cecil, Lammey, and a lot of fun during those times. Fun continues unless you're a Vikings fan. Oh my God. And I have to dig this up because our dear friend Paul Charchian, there is none higher, by the way, Charge legend, absolute OG in the fantasy space, had a comparison for one JJ McCarthy compared to Jamarcus Russell, and he called it Purple Savior versus Purple Drank. Jamarcus Russell has him beat in everything. JJ McCarthy is not good at football. Maybe that's ever, and maybe it's just right now, again, in a similar fashion to other quarterbacks that we've seen. But they had a lot riding on this young man, and he's come through with a stupid nickname. Never nickname yourself. He's come through with terrible quarterback play, come through with nothing but turnovers, nothing but sacks, more injuries than you can shake a stick at. And it's like, okay, the Kevin O'Connell thing, it was never the right fit. And that's why with JJ McCarthy, I'm not saying he can't play Everbloom. I'm not saying he's a total bust. I'm saying Thor Nystrom, turn off your mentions because, my God, people are tearing him up. And we appreciate Thor, but that one, hey, JJ needs a different location, in my opinion, because Kevin O'Connell's quarterbacks are all about big arm, and he doesn't have it. He doesn't. He never has, by the way. 12 and 19, 87 yards, 2 picks. He's just awful. Just awful. Justin Jefferson, 4 for 48. Why am I reading anything from the Vikings side of the box?
If you want to know how the game went, just listen to Cecil's speech that he just made.
Yeah, the 23-6. Packers are 7-3-1. Excuse me. And Vikings are 4-7. Now they may be getting a top 10 pick to use on a quarterback.
Right.
To use on something. Like it's bad. Last year's such good feelings around the Vikings. And then this season, the polar opposite.
Yeah, it is. And Cease, I think that we don't want to overreact. We don't want to be hot take merchants. And there's a larger question here about the NFL's approach to quarterback development. And the fans have blood on their hands too, because I think that, Cease, there's a joke, right? The joke is that the Vikings should just release JJ McCarthy and then sign him as the next Kevin O'Connell reclamation project. What does that joke really represent? That when you have the weight of expectations, it can be something that sinks you down to the bottom of the oceans. And then when you don't have the weight of expectations and somebody believes in you, you can find your game again. But I think that's where we're at in JJ McCarthy's career. And it sucks because much like Anthony Richardson, that injury, you can see how difficult it is for the top 10 or top 11, whatever he was, first round pick, who gets hurt in his first training camp and just misses all of the development, even if it's just watching and, preparing with the team every week. Because now in the second year, you aren't graded on the rookie year expectations. You aren't Cam Ward getting a pass for learning the ropes. You're a second year quarterback. The expectations are higher, especially if the team is good. And JJ McCarthy just can't live up to them. And look, this is the Packers defense in Lambeau returning to the form we saw early in the year when we thought, geez, with Micah Parsons, this is like the best defense. And actually, McCarthy came out, made a good throw early on to Justin Jefferson. You get a field goal. Packers defense is tough. He had a fumbled snap. They did have a Jordan Mason drive. They then got stopped on fourth down. When Jordan Mason got stopped on fourth down, that's not McCarthy's fault. He actually had a nice field goal drive before halftime. You're hanging in the game. Okay, settle down. We've seen this in some of his comeback games. And then the second half was just a disaster. Again, it's like Rocky, Terry, throw the damn towel. I mean, at a certain point, you really felt like just get him out of the game. Just get him out of the game. Because you saw, and look, again, not his fault, a fumbled punt. That's not on him. But now the scoreboard is getting tilted even worse against Minnesota, and the pass rush just starts to tee off. And he's inside his own like 5 or 10. He's fighting, he's trying, but it's over at that point. He throws a couple of interceptions, and then you see it when the Green Bay defense does the skull, like the Vikings chant after the last interception. That's taking your soul. That's basically the Packers saying, we have taken your soul, Vikings. This was a rivalry. It's not a rivalry now. It's an exhibition. And you wonder, you got the Seattle defense up next week in Seattle. What's worse for JJ McCarthy's career at this point? Putting him out there or benching him? I mean, they're both devastating at this point. May have Max Brosmer. The team apparently really likes him. Maybe are they afraid to put him out there? See, I saw floated already earlier this week before this game. Trade for Mac Jones. It's not an overreaction. That's where we're at. And you should say, hey, maybe JJ McCarthy should be graded on a different curve. Maybe he should have more time. The second injury really, but it doesn't matter. This is a what have you done for me lately results-based business, and the results are not there.
Yeah, the results aren't there, and just the physical attributes aren't there. The mental attributes are, and that's where I would say with Anthony Richardson, it was off the charts, physical attributes. But you got to put it all together. And McCarthy, it's the flip side of like, okay, you get it, but physically, it's not there. You know who he'd be really good with? Rams win the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford retires. Sean McVay gets his hands on JJ McCarthy. Sean McVay would make him a Brock Purdy, version of that. That's who he is. But Brock Purdy wasn't a top 10 pick.
Right. Or, what Shane Steichen's done with Daniel Jones, where it's like that first read can be so easy that you don't get into the weeds very often.
Jones has physical skill sets, though. You have to deal with someone that has limited skill set, like a Brock Purdy, where it's like, the system better be really good.
Yeah. Well, and he just looks rushed. I mean, he looks competitive. He's competitive mentally, spiritually, emotionally, but his he's still nervous. He's still rushed, not out of fear, but just out of inexperience. But how do you get that experience for him? And Kevin O'Connell talked about this, balancing what's good for him versus what's good for the franchise. How can you sink the franchise in the name of seeing if he can get there? That's the problem.
Right. Packers side. Oh God, we got to talk Packers. Almost forgot. Emmanuel Wilson with those 2 touchdowns, 107 yards on the ground. Of course, Josh Jacobs out of this one. Christian Watson, they're spreading it around. Of course, 5 for 49. That's what a number 1 receiver looks like some weeks with the Packers, like 5 catches, 50 yards. Okay. Dontavian Wicks, 2 for 32. Romeo Doubs, 2 for 23. Wilson also had a couple catches for 18 yards. Nothing from the tight ends, really. So Green Bay gets this win, and they do it fairly easily.
Yeah, and super conservative. Once they saw, they just a lot of Emmanuel Wilson. You love seeing this for Wilson, that he gets an opportunity. He just runs really tough. Really, really tough. Runs over someone in the hole to get the first touchdown. And they were content to put him exactly in the role they would Josh Jacobs. And he ran with the physicality of Josh Jacobs and not about Josh Jacobs' stats. Otherwise, they were settling for field goals. And the Vikings defense fought hard. This is not a Vikings defense that is a pushover. However, you only last so long against a team whenever your offense isn't really doing anything to help you. Christian Watson, his numbers weren't terrible, but you're going to get Jaden Reed back pretty soon. Matthew Golden missed this game, but when it's a conservative offense, if the defense plays well, you're just not going to see numbers. Now on Thanksgiving in Detroit, probably going to see some numbers in a game that could be really fun for fantasy football.
Yeah, a fun one up next here as we're recapping the early games in week 12. 30-24, the final score. Seahawks get the win over the Titans. Titans are 1-10. Seattle is 8-3. Sam Darnold, 244, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. He threw enough last week. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 8 for 167 and 2 touchdowns. And nobody else did anything.
Yeah.
How truly dominant is JSN? Truly dominant. And I hope he gets 2,000 yards receiving. We've never seen it before. And he could actually do it. We had a rushing touchdown for Zach Charbonnet. We had Kenneth Walker with 71 yards on the ground. Walker also had 30 yards receiving to get over 100 all-purpose. But it was the JSN show, which is a great show.
Oh, what a show. What a show. And hey, I'm going to be the first to say I got this one wrong in the preseason. One of the biggest questions going into fantasy drafts this year was, well, Sam Darnold, after the last 2 games we saw with the Seattle offensive line, can he support and Clint Kubiak's offense? Can he support the value of Jackson Smith and Jigba? Oh boy, because it's a they did it. It's not just he did it. Cease. If Jackson Smith and Jigba has a 2,000-yard season, it's a they did it. And Sam Darnold deserves that because the connection, the deep ball connection, they're toying with the defense. I mean, it looks too easy. They coasted. First ever with 75 or more receiving yards in the first 11 games of the season for JSN. So congratulations if you believed in JSN or Sam Darnold or just backed into the pick and didn't really even want JSN because you're seeing this week after week. Kenneth Walker is ahead of Zach Charbonnet. He did get a goal to go touch. Was mediocre for fantasy because, again, see, this game was 30-24. It wasn't that close, although it was closer than folks expected. So otherwise, you did see Arden Key get a sack to keep this game close down the stretch on a fourth down. They only had 46 plays. 46 plays, 30 points, a road win. I think they've won all of their games traveling east on their body clock all messed up. So you'll take that if you're Seattle. And I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you'll take what you saw from Cam Ward today.
Oh, 1,000%. And maybe even all season long, Bloom. Not to get hyperbolic or emotional. Cam Ward fights, man.
Yeah.
Cam Ward wants it. Like, imagine if Anthony Richardson cared. Like, that's the care that you see with Cam Ward on a weekly basis. Now, it's not leading to wins. Get him the right coach, and you'll get him there. 256, 1 touchdown, no INT, sacked 4 times for Cam Ward. Gunnar Helm, dynasty alert, 6 for 51. DK gets 5 for 44 and a touchdown. Chigo Okonkwo gets 3 for 40. I appreciate James Prochet, SMU. What's up at 3 for 42? Like these are the guys he's throwing to.
Exactly.
And like I
Yeah.
appreciate Okonkwo and I appreciate Gunnar Helm, local Cherry Creek product, but like Cam Ward with a rushing touchdown, 37 yards to lead the way on the ground. Like, all right, it's just not there with the talent around him. Not everybody, again, some guys to like, but it's there with Cam Ward.
Yeah.
And you see the hunger even through all these 10 losses.
If you're a Titans fan, you don't have a coach, but you do have a quarterback, and probably you're gonna have the number 1 pick. So this could be fun. Cam Ward with his first good fantasy game, and that signifies something because, like you said, Cease. I mean, this is who he was throwing to, and against a good defense, by the way, a very good Seattle defense. So he kept fighting. He got a rushing touchdown. He's spraying the ball around. And by the way, Chimere Dike had a touchdown as a return man and a touchdown as a receiver for the second time this year. He's a rookie. So you got that going for you. And Gunnar Helm's a rookie. You know, he led the team in catches and yards. That's not great, but you might expect that against Seattle with their secondary. But otherwise, you're throwing to Xavier Restrepo, who finally got active. James Prochet. I mean, that's who he was throwing to. And he put up a fight. You know, there was an onside kick at the end that if they had recovered it, they would have had a chance to pull off this upset. So even though it feels like a failure, at least a failure of Brian Callahan, the front office making this pick, zeroing in on Cam Ward, and it wasn't necessarily an easy choice because of players like Dual Carter and Travis Hunter. They made a choice that gives them a chance. I'm very excited to see who they pair up with him and see if they can play spoiler against Jacksonville next week.
Well, and the choice between him and Shadur Sanders. I mean, I know that maybe inside the league that wasn't seen as a realistic choice, but with the Giants swirling around, who went with Jackson Dart, with the Raiders swirling around, who I guess Tom Brady didn't want to draft Shadur, even though they're buddies, which is controversial watching Shadur get his first start right now. But like, they made the right choice with Cam. He needs a lot of help. It's going to take some time, but you can see that kid's got it, and the stage isn't too big, and it doesn't rattle him.
And he's ready to take all the slings and arrows and tomatoes. He's ready because of how far up he had to work just for the college football world to even know he existed. He is able to handle the abuse that comes with being that young franchise quarterback for a team that's going nowhere, at least for right now. And see, even some of the players that have been traded away have said, hey, Tennessee, you got a good one in Cam Ward. So, you know, maybe for fantasy, eventually we'll have a good one too.
Sig with the blunt analysis. Bam! From the Crankin.
That's a double entendre.
Of course.
Oh, wait. Sorry, Joe.
That's why I suggest that I'm going to give everyone $1 million idea right now, Suigmund. Here we go. Once again, as my brain's working, blunt should be your like company slow. It's like I always wanted to create the clothing line AF, so I could be like, you know, country AF. You know, just whatever you are, metalhead AF. So just have those. Just like the Party Naked sweatshirts we had back in the day. Bluntbroncos.com. You do the Broncos, you smoke weed every day, right?
Yeah.
Bluntbuccaneers.com. Have Blunt as your like company.
That's the newest sports network.
Yeah. Blunt Guys. Bluntguys.com. We're starting it now.
Brought to you by Phillies. Yeah.
Brought to you by Zigzag. Anyway. Jets in Baltimore up next. Let's talk about it. 23-10, the final score. Ravens 6-5. Surging? Question mark. Tyrod Taylor in for the Jets. Jets are 2-9. Ravens 6-5. Let's get to the Jets so we can really talk about Baltimore. Breece Hall's amazing. 75 yards receiving, 44 yards rushing. Everyone else, whatever. Love John Mechie because F cancer. I don't even have to say sorry, Joe, when I say that because F cancer. But John Mechie was 6 for 65 and a touch. It's the Jets. They're terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And they show some fight. I mean, that's Aaron Glenn, you know, and Tyrod Taylor to an extent. I don't think there's anything they sell at those stores that would have made this game entertaining to watch, though. So thankfully there were other games on. 6 punts to open this game. Woo! Yeah. Tyrod Taylor was not a bust in this game for fantasy. Breece Hall was not a bust in this game for fantasy, although he fumbled in the red zone. The one moment the Jets really had a chance to make this a game. No, he was heating up. He had 2 catches for 56 yards on the drive, and that's it. And John Mechie, who we'll talk about as a sleeper, as a what the heck flex, as he's getting a chance to show what he can do. A possession receiver, but in this offense with Tyrod Taylor. Now, of course, going into the game, Aaron Glenn's like, well, it's week to week, That doesn't mean Tyrod Taylor's the starter for the rest of the year. I think he played well enough to be it doesn't matter. Playing Atlanta next week, I don't know. So yeah, the Jets, they made the Ravens at home sweat in this game, and see. We know the AFC playoff picture. We're back to there's 7 spots and maybe more than 7 teams that are worthy of a spot. The Ravens did not look like a playoff team today.
Yeah, and good thing they played the Jets, who are terrible. Now, Derrick Henry, 64 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, but 3 yards a carry. Okay. Lamar, 13 of 23, only sacked once. No touchdowns, no INTs. Oh, okay. Zay Flowers, 5 for 58. Tez Walker, 1 for, my God, your second leading receiver shouldn't be 1 catch for 30 yards. And I love Tez Walker, dynasty-wise. But it's like, okay, Lamar, you guys want to make that run. Lamar, you got to be a little more efficient, a little more Lamar-like.
Yeah, I think he's hurt, Cease. I think he's hurt. And I think this is going to be one of those situations where, they play Cincinnati 2 the next 3 weeks. All right. So for fantasy, it may still come through. But watching Lamar Jackson play, again, I said this last week, you have to go back to his rookie year in the playoffs to really see the game look hard for him. And this is a Jets defense that traded away their 2 best players. And it looked difficult for him. He was getting tackled on scrambles. You're used to seeing, oh boy, Lamar just shot out of the pocket. How many yards is it going to be? How many guys is he going to make miss? He gets tackled like 2 yards from the line of scrimmage. He's making throws, and even the Devontae Walker throw, Cease, Walker had to dive for it, or it could have been a touchdown. You just saw him missing on throws that he doesn't miss on. There was a play where DeAndre Hopkins burned his guy in the red zone. It was an easy touchdown, the kind of touchdown that Lamar Jackson does a nice little touch pass. And Lamar Jackson overthrew him by about 5 yards. And Cease, DeAndre Hopkins put his hands in the air. Like, what can I do?
Right.
What can I do? And how is this team going to win in the playoffs if Lamar Jackson's missing those kinds of throws? You did see Henry score. You saw also with Jets pass interference penalties. You can get those. But this was at home against the Jets. And, we'll see Thanksgiving night. I just think I'm giving Lamar a little bit of a leeway here, saying he's hurt. But it's the kind of injury, Cease, that when's he going to get healthy? The bye week's over. When is he going to look like Lamar? I don't know if he is going to this year, but I am excited to watch him play against Joe Burrow on Thanksgiving night if I'm not already asleep from the tryptophan.
Sleeping. Don't sleep on what the Browns are doing with Shadur Sanders. Just looking over our scores right now. Jacksonville on top of Arizona, although it's close. Cleveland beating up on the Vegas Raiders. Okay. Atlanta barely beating the Saints, I guess 16-7.
Yeah.
Philly taking care of business against Dallas. Anything stand out here? Of course, my Colorado eyes are going to be on Shadur, who seems to be, I've seen a couple of his throws so far. Again, we're doing the show live. Had a pick, had Jerry Jeudy drop a pass, but yeah, they're, Shadur's looking as comfortable as you'd think. 9 for 14, 150 yards, no touchdowns, and INT right now. Only sacked 1 time, which is really good for him because he holds on to the ball too long.
And we saw a 52-yarder to Isaiah Bond where Sanders got flushed from the pocket and had to make a long throw on the run. So you saw arm talent there in addition to that bold passing mentality that we've seen from Shadur Sanders. So, the offense has some fight, and Quinshon Judkins scores twice as a Wildcat quarterback. The Raiders are just bad. When are we going to see Aiden O'Connell? Basically, that's where I think we are with the Raiders. Jags and Cardinals, fun back and forth. Jacoby Brissett's still going to throw for a lot of yards, a lot of them to Michael Wilson. And you're going to have actually Travis Etienne punching his way out of the corner again as Bashal Tutin looked like he was maybe passing him. Both guys banged up, but Etienne is rolling in this one. Jacoby Myers gets his first touchdown from Trevor Lawrence as we're going into we're in the third quarter. Eagles defense. Eagles offense, which one is more impressive in this one as they go into Dallas right now? Now there's still a half left. But they're really putting on a show on both sides of the ball. A.J. Brown, at least for now, everything is good. And I guess the Saints are a bad team. I started to believe it's drinking too much of that New Orleans water. They just sent letters to everyone saying everyone's been drinking out of lead pipes the whole time. That's why I thought that the Saints actually might be good this year. They did get a defensive touchdown in this one. And Kirk Cousins is still, captain check down. But you are seeing at least Atlanta looking functional. The Rams going, we're not going to get a top 10 pick. Saints are going to get a top 10 pick. So, week 12. And really, I just hope that as we're cruising towards Thanksgiving, I hope, as many people as possible, your teams are still alive. But if you're listening to the sound of my voice right now, thank you for being a presence in our life and certainly for allowing us to be a presence in your life, as always. And we've got some good primetime games coming up. It's still fun, so much fun. I mean, Cecil, I don't care how your fantasy teams are doing. If you care about football, if you are up to speed on the stories leading into these games, this was such a compelling afternoon of football, and it's only week 12.
Only week 12. We're marching towards the fantasy playoffs, and of course, here to help you in any way possible. He's Suigmund Bloom. Follow him on all the socials at Suigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. 20 years of this thing. We appreciate you all very, very much for listening. Drop a comment down below, like, comment, share, subscribe. Really helps the algorithm. Really helps me learn English eventually. Algorithm. And we appreciate you for helping us out with said word I can't pronounce. Anyway, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to footballguys.com. Stay tuned and stay frosty.